Hi everyone, it's Nat here. Hope you're all doing well. I'm on for my second video using the awesome Beebeecraft products that I unboxed the other day. So there is a YouTube program where you can get free items from Beebeecraft if you have a YouTube channel with over 100 subscribers. So you might want to check that out. It's linked below. There's also links to Beebeecraft's shop and the products that I'm using for my tutorials in the last few weeks. There is a discount code, which is NAT10. You can use that to get 10% off of your order, and that is valid until the 18th of July 2025. So you've got plenty of time to use that. So the products I have left over, you may remember last week I did some beaded dangles out of broken jewellery, and I also did a beaded spine for a journal. Using the beautiful flower beads that I got from Beebeecraft. So that leaves me with these two products, and that is the number and letter stamps that I got, and also the wax seals. So I've got a busy day ahead, but it should be a whole heap of fun. So we will start with our letter and number stamps. So I've had to play and put one lot together with a word. So I've got the word ideas here. Now I did notice when I went to put it together that to have one of the letters up the right way, they weren't going to attach together. And I thought, uh-oh, bit of trouble here. But then I realised that the stamps are actually removable. So you can take them out and turn them around and all that sort of stuff, which is really handy. That also means that once you've got your block together like this, if you wanted to, rather than taking all the blocks apart to make and putting them back together to make another word, you can just leave your block together and change your stamps out instead. So that's pretty neat. So we'll start with the word ideas. And we'll do a bit of stamping. So what I have got to stamp on, the usual rigmarole here, I have a whole lot of scrap paper. So I have pianola roll paper, I've got plain card stocks, a suspension file and manila file folder. I've got offcuts from my digital pages, patterned papers. So scrapbook papers, note paper offcuts, and cardstock offcuts. So just a whole lot of scraps there that I can stamp on. I also have my fabric scraps, or some of my fabric scraps. So I think I'll stamp on some of them as well. And I thought we can make some little embellishments or book plates, layered embellishments and that for our journals. Something I haven't got many of here, and really handy to have made, and a great way to do some stash busting and add some colour to your journals. And I thought a nice way to use these stamps, and that's why I got this size as well. I think it's a really good size for book plates. So we will get to it. So I've grabbed my archival inks because if I'm going to be stamping on fabric, I find the archival inks give the clearest print. I have my mat down, my cutting mat, because it just adds a little bit of sponginess to help with the stamping. And I've got some paper. I thought I can always test my stamps on the paper, but if I'm doing fabric as well, some of the fabric's quite thin and it might go through on my mat. So I've got some paper to help with that. So now I have all these stamped bits and pieces ready to go, which is awesome. And I decided to use the number stamps on some of the blank spots on the paper so I don't waste any. And there'll be something that I can just rip up or cut out and stick for embellishments here and there, or on journal cards. Same with the numbers here, I can cut them down into individuals or leave them as a line like that. This is the type of scrap that I can't seem to throw out, but I don't know what I'd use it for really, so it's good to be able to do something like that with it. And they stamped quite nicely on that. It's some old curtain or upholstery fabric it is. So, and I love the way some of the colours came up on the botanical sort of themed, like the purple on this one I really love. So I might do some more. I've got some more of this fabric, so I'll be able to stamp a whole lot with the purple in the future, and that will look really nice. So now I'm going to go off and get a whole lot of pieces ready to put together with you guys to show you how they're going to end up. So I've got some of my stamped fabrics here, and I found some other scrap bits to layer them on top of. And that's what I want to do. I also raided my buttons, and I found 2 buttons that I want to put on that one, and a massive button that I want to put on this one. And what I'm going to do that with is I grabbed some embroidery thread. Now I'm not very good at sewing, but we are going to try and hand sew this. But first what I might do is just tack the labels onto the fabric with a bit of my fabric glue. It will just make it easier for me to make sure I've got them where I want them. So I have to be careful with this because it's quite thin. So I'm just doing a little bit of glue. I'll put this on top. Get it where I want it. Cutting's a bit crooked. And that'll just help hold it in place for me. And I'll do the same with this one. Now you could, if you wanted to, if you don't want to have to sew, you can just stick all of this down. But I think the colour of the threads will add some more embellishment to these. And you could do as many layers of fabric in that as you want. Okay. So for this one, we want to use a dark purple thread. It's got some old bits there that I've used for something else. We will just use that. Now, how thick do I want it? I was thinking about 2 threads maybe. Yeah, I think that'll do. Now I have some cross-stitch needles here. They're not the sharpest. But hopefully that means I won't stab myself. So hopefully they'll be sharp enough though to do what we want to do. Just I don't want it down that far. Go up a bit higher. Just going to leave a nice tail. Don't need it too long though, because we are going to stick this down onto a journal sometime. Just trying to catch my tail with the threads that I'm making now. So here I have finished stitching. my little journal plate on. So now we want to add our button. So I think I'll put it just there. So I'm going to sew that onto, so I've got 2 threads again here, and I'm going to go down through the top. And I'll leave a nice long tail. Now to find the hole. There it is. And I'll just go around through those holes a couple of times. That's pretty good. So I'll go down to that bottom one. Geez, they're big holes, but I'm still struggling to find them. It's been a while since I've done something like this. And again, we'll go through that one 2 times. So I'm doing a bit of a cross stitch to hold the button on. And then I'm going to come up through that one. And that way we'll finish tying our button through the top here. And what we can do if we want is do a little bow. See how it looks. So if I left a long enough tail. And then I'll just snip off the ends. And there's that journal plate. Because you know it's going on the cover, it doesn't matter if you put a bit of bulk on there, which is a nice thing to be able to do. So that's our first one done. You could always sew around these edges too, but I like them quite the way they are. Now with some of the thinner fabric, I'll probably glue it to a bit of paper, and then when I go to put it on the journal, it'll be a lot easier to put a whole lot of glue on the paper to attach it to the journal. But this one I'm not too worried. This might even get sewed onto the journal. So we'll do this one now. So that's the 2 we've done so far. I think they look really cool. Nice and colourful. So I've got a whole range of them out there, so I'm going to go and do a whole lot of sewing, and then we'll come back and we'll do some of the paper ones. So I have here my scraps that I want to layer my words onto, so I'm just cutting the words down and then sticking them on various scrap bits of paper. Sometimes I just do the 1 layer, and sometimes I do like 2 layers. Some I decided to corner around all the pieces, and others I just left straight, just depending on how I thought they'd look better. And I inked around lots of the edges with different coloured inks. The more vintage ones I kept to the browns and blacks. But then I did use some blue and purple on the brighter ones. The inking and sewing can make such a difference. So you can make a lot of these quite quickly, and it does use up a lot of all your scrap bits and pieces, which is wonderful. So then I have to decide which ones I want to sew around. And I'll head off to the sewing machine with all my fabric ones and my paper ones and see which ones that I'd like to stitch with the sewing machine. So now I've got my wax seal set up. I've got some palette knives that I want to try a technique with. I've got 2 spoons there, and I've got all the beautiful seals that I got from Beebeecraft. So there I have some silver wax, and I'm just tipping it on and flattening it out with my palette knife, and then using my little knife there to scrape it off. I want to try and just get wax in the little picture part. I've seen lots of people doing this and I've never tried it before. So you leave the picture part in there and then you melt some more wax. I have black wax here. And then you push it down onto that. And that sort of melts the picture part of the silver wax so that it adheres to your black seal there and gives you sort of like an inlay, which I love, but I tell you, I must have tried about 100 times before I actually got one that was semi-decent. Yeah, all the waxes are so different, and if you let it dry too much, it just pulls out, and I found it very tricky. They make it look easy, but it's not. So I need a lot more practice, but it was definitely easier on like the more simple patterns, of course, because I just don't have the patience to sit there with a little pick picking all the little bits out. So I just inlaid that fox head into the black here as well. So yeah, I've only showed you the ones that semi-worked out because it would have taken all day if I had shown all the ones that didn't. But I was glad that I had the patience to stick with it and keep giving it a go. The seal's absolutely gorgeous. So there's my little fox head in there. And then I thought I would grab out the glue gun because I do have some of those green waxes that I got from Kmart, and I've never tried them in the glue gun, but I had to push some wax in to get rid of the glue that was in there first until I started getting the wax coming out. So I've got a marble chopping board underneath, and that's what I've been doing my wax seals on. It's just nice and safe because it's big and I can have my candle on there and everything and do a whole heap at once. It took a bit of doing to get enough wax coming out to be able to do this, but I was able to get just enough to make little seals after a bit. And they turned out really good. So I'll have to get some more glue gun wax. It's a bit more of a convenient way to melt the wax. I was getting there then. It took a few goes to get enough wax coming out. I think it took a fair while for my glue gun to heat up. I've never tried this before, so... I had to keep squeezing the trigger. I thought the wax would cool down too much before I got the seal on, but it didn't, so that was good. So these ones are getting a lot better. So I have the ones there that I wasn't very happy with, and I decided that I would trim around the pattern with these and try doing another way of doing the sort of inlays. This is definitely easiest with the really simple patterns. So I think that's one of the turkey ones that I'm trimming there. And then I've got a fox head as well that I trim. So then what you do is get your little pattern there that you've trimmed out and you stick it back into the seal. Now, I only just sort of sat there for me and I was worried it was going to fall out when I tipped it upside down, but it didn't. So I melted some of the copper wax there and then tip it up carefully and then put it in. And there's my inlay. So I was really happy that sort of worked. So it's the first time for me doing either of these techniques and that, so it's definitely not perfect, but it was good to try it. And I think I'll be better at it next time I give it a go. I'm definitely a lot better now at knowing how much wax to melt for my seals. And I remember the first time I tried it, because I've only done it once before, and it took me forever to get the right amount of wax. So I have finished all of my crafting, and I thought I'd come on and show you all the things that we've made. So I have all of these words stamped out ready to use when I want, and all the numbers. So they'll be fun to use in things. I actually like this one just as it is. And then, so I'll start with the paper book plates that we made. It's amazing what a bit of sewing does to just finish things off. So some are sewed and some aren't. They can, of course, be layered further onto material or whatever, or embellished with other bits and pieces, but I thought I'd keep most of them plain so that when I know what journal I'm going to put them on, I will know what embellishments I want to add to them. That one's got the pianola paper. That was a bit of packaging that had things stapled to it, but you can't notice the staple holes. And then there's one that I did embellish with just a little bit of lace. And then we've got our fabric ones. So I've got the two that I showed on camera. So these would be great, and again, I haven't embellished these at all other than the sewing, because when I know where I'm putting them, I can decide whether I want to leave them as is, add a button. You could add sequins or beads or anything, lace. This one I added just a little bit of scrap lace too. I tried a bit of cross stitch. Little ideas one. Keep that to the side because I might be using that in a project soon. So some are machine stitched and others are hand stitched. This one I hand stitched, but I did the stitching quite small and you can't really tell it's there. So I machine stitched it as well. It's a bit scrappy, but might back that onto a piece of cardstock. It almost would be better with these fabric ones to layer them onto your paper or backing card and then sew them, just so they don't sort of pucker. It's another reason why I like to stick them down first. So they were a lot of fun to make, and I have stacks now, absolutely stacks and stacks of these plates to use on future journals, which is wonderful. And then we did wax seals. So I have a pile of them to show. Now I did go ahead off camera and make some just plain seals. So what I will start with is first I was trying to inlay some of them. So this one was one that I did do the inlay of at the start, and that one turned out okay. There were a fair few bits of the silver wax that must have still been on the flat area of my stamp, which came up in this. But what I did was I went over the fish with silver Sharpie or gel pen, and I went over the little moon with some gold, and then I used black Sharpie to colour in the silver bits that were where I didn't want them, and that actually turned out all right. So that worked. These were two of the inlays that I did. So, you know, I'm not very good at it. It was the first time I ever tried it, but they sort of worked. So it was really good to give all of this a go. I learnt heaps because all the waxes are very different. Yeah, so it just takes a lot of practice and patience. And then there was one, I think it was the wolves, and I had done an inlay and I didn't like the way it turned out. So I cut the seal up and re-melted it. And I didn't stir it much, so it gave me a marbled effect with the black and the silver. So that's a good thing, is you can practice over and over and just keep re-melting your wax. And that's the fish as well. And I coloured them in with some silver gel pen, just so that they stood out a bit more from the background. Okay, so there were other inlays that I showed you me doing, and that was these ones. So I think I used the hot glue gun to melt the green bits, and then I snipped around them with my scissors, and then melted the other colour and did the seal over the top of that. So they turned out all right. Now that's a good one to do if you have quite simple, easy to cut around shapes. So that one worked out pretty good, other than the seal, the round seal didn't form properly around the edge, but that's all right. And then I think the rest of them, oh no, here's one that we did as well. That one was my favourite of the inlays that I did. That one worked out all right. So pretty cool. And then we've got one plain one here. Yep. So that was just the plain hot glue gun one with the turkey. I'll put them all down here. And then I did a whole lot of plain ones and then coloured them in with Sharpies and gel pens. So I've got these. So they're the wolf one and the turkey again. And these. So this wax is a bit different, this red one. I think that was like this green one. And they're sort of textured or a bit lumpier than other waxes to use. So the foxes. I did the snake there, and I used my Inca Gold and rubbed that over the top of my snake. This one was Inca Gold, but in red. Now this is your clear beads. Sort of looks like your hot glue. It was very sticky like hot glue too, so I won't be surprised if the clear beads that I got are sort of your hot glue. And I just coloured in the fish on that one. And then I did the same here with the snake. I love the way this one turned out. All the details come up real nice when you colour that in. That was with the black Sharpie, which I did again on these ones, which are your clear beads again. Love the cat. Then we've got turkey and fox again. So I used all the seals that I got from Beebeecraft to make these. That one's beautiful with the wolves. That's the best one I got with the wolf picture. And then, yeah, love the cat one. So that was fun. I learnt heaps as usual making all of those, and now I've got stacks of bits and pieces here to use for future journals. So I hope you enjoyed that, guys. Take care of yourselves, be good, and I will see you again soon. Bye.